Bonjour. Star Wars comics are good again, and I'm going to do a video going through all the latest ones. After I've done a little bit, I'll give a little bit of the potted history through my own collection, through bad boys like this, etc. But this is mainly for stuff like this, which is the new crop of Marvel Star Wars comics, and I have been very impressed. They aren't the most award-winning, look who it ain't, they're not the most award-winning comics of all time, but I've just been really enjoying them. I've been pleasantly surprised. I've just been drawn in by the covers primarily. They've done some stunning covers and some quirky covers, like based on the old toys and stuff like that. So it has really pulled at the old Star Wars fans kind of puppet strings, and it has drawn me in, and it's got me dancing to their tune, if I'll carry on with that analogy. And this is another one. This is right up to date. These three I've just showed are right up to date, you know. And believe me when I say it does exactly what it says on the tin. It all fits. As far as I know, it's all canon. But I'm just going to give you a comic book fan and a Star Wars fan's perspective on the new comics, and have a look at some good artwork, and kind of, I don't want to be too spoilery, because obviously all this stuff is going to be available as graphic novels, all this modern stuff, so I don't want to be too spoilery with it, but just kind of titillate you enough, I suppose, into maybe trying one or two of them, because I tell you what, they are well worth it. Not all of them, but that's why I want to show you the ones that I've been getting and that I can vouch for, and I haven't bought a bad one yet. So join me up the scroll for a little bit of history lesson, and then into the new stuff. So for those of you that don't know, Marvel did have the original comic book rights in 1977 when the original film first came out, and they held those rights until 1986, publishing 107 issues plus 3 annuals, I think it was, and then they did an issue 108, but that was in the 2000s, I think. But anyway, so it was that original block, and up to 1986, and then Dark Horse Comics took over in 1991. So I've got a couple of the Treasury editions here. Look, let's just go through these bad boys that are just a little slight. We can't talk about Star Wars comics without having a little look at the original story and how it was conveyed in comic book form with the original characters, and how much we loved it as comic book fans, and particularly as Star Wars fans, actually. And it did have some great, they had some great artists working on it. We're going to get to one of them in a minute, who did the newspaper dailies strips. Some glorious artwork from, you know, a golden age artist, Williamson. But that was Howard Chaykin in the original comics, in the original, let's call it the original six issues. So obviously just a very, very quick look for old time's sake, only because I just love this stuff and it takes me down memory lane. Look at the size of this at 50p in 1977. But basically these Treasury editions, if you're a comic fan, you know why I love them, and we all love them. But they're only reprints. They're only this was just a huge deal. You know, big comics. Wow, man, Treasury edition. But it was a reprint of the comic. But I've never been quite sure whether Howard Chaykin was the right one. When I was a big comic fan already by 1977, and I'm just not sure that. Obviously, Howard Chaykin's name went down in history as being the one that done the comic book adaptation of Star Wars, and he does lament the fact now that, because he's done tons of stuff, but he's still kind of in certain circles considered the Star Wars artist. And now looking back on it, I mean, I love Howard Chaykin's work, by the way. He's one of my top comic book artists of all time. But I just don't think this was his best. You know, although he's getting likenesses kind of all right, I don't think this was spot on for him. But anyway, it got everything in. You know, this is just a quick, you know, you got Obi-Wan right, I suppose, Alec Guinness. You know, I'm just not sure with Steve Lowell doing the inks on it. But anyway, this was a solid 6 issues comic book adaptation. You know, give us all the action. And this comic book broke all the records. It was a newsstand. It was not this Treasury edition, but the first issues of the Star Wars comic. I don't know how much later this one come out, actually. Yeah, it broke all... so this is... Oh, quarterly. So 3 months later, we get the other 3 issues. If you have... I mean, I'd like to say I did have the regular... But they give us... As if we don't know the story so far. They give us... Oh, this is just wonderful stuff, look. My well-thumbed copy... that I would have bought because I was collecting the Treasury editions at the time. You know, why we need that in there, I don't know, but it obviously needed a page to fill. I can't imagine that Lucasfilm paid to, you know, look at this, look, is this the final chapter, Star Wars chapter 6? And it wasn't, because obviously there would have been an issue 7. You know, some of this stuff, it's such basic stuff, you know, but at the time, I don't think anyone cared really at the time. I'm not saying the artists didn't care. I mean the comic book readers and fans. We was just lapping it up. We were just lapping it up, and then it stopped. Obviously, this is the first 6 issues, but then it stopped. Issue 107 until 1991. Dark Horse get hold of it. And this was Tom Veitch, and these, back in that day, this stuff had to be, that they were very, very closely vetted and overseen, which I like, by Lucasfilm, because this was at the same time as the Thrawn books, and some of the stuff like the newspaper strips. The Return of the Jedi wasn't out, but Lucasfilm was still insisting, or whatever they were called at the time, whether it was Lucasfilm or not, I don't know, back in that day. But this all had to be sewn in, and this was a 6-issue miniseries from Dark Horse, and it did fantastically well. Obviously, there was a lot of pent-up demand for it, and it done very, very well. In 91 and 92 that come out. This obviously, I mean, and these are only a few because I don't want to dwell too much on the past stuff, but let's have a little look at these because it's wonderful artwork by Cam Kennedy. This was the second one, and these are obviously the reprint graphic novel editions. These would have been 6-issue miniseries from Dark Horse, but these are like the UK graphic novel editions. And then this is a weird little one, but I couldn't resist showing what they were doing with Star Wars at the time, back in the day, and why I think it's working now is because they're using the main characters that we all come to know and love. And then you know, the artwork in Dark Empire was by a British artist called Cam Kennedy, who'd done work on a lot of stuff in England, War Comics 2000 AD. So. And I think he gets the likenesses. I think he gets the likenesses pretty well. But look, so we've had starvation in the comic world for 5 years, and then we get this kind of stuff, and these world destroyers that the Empire is trying to, you know, the Falcon is back. Look at this. I think this is glorious artwork, and I was a big fan of Cam Kennedy from the stuff he would have done in 2000 AD. I don't know if he'd done much in battle action and for Commando and all that, but basically British comics. And this was part of the big poaching of a lot of British creators, Cam Kennedy, written by Tom Veitch. And this was wonderful stuff. It just drops everything we'd come to know and love. up until this point in here, which was basically, and I know I'm harping on about it, but this was still new. This was still new to see Luke like this. After the 3 films, this was still all new, and these comics went down very well, very well indeed. I mean, I don't know how difficult it is to pick up these editions now, and like I say, I'm just taking handfuls of, you know, even the colouring on this I really like, and Cam Kennedy's art style really does suit this kind of stuff, this blocky kind of stuff. It's nice. Well, I've just kept hold of this reprint edition. You know, like I say, this would have been 6 issues, and it was followed up some years later by Dark Empire 2, and obviously, don't get me wrong, Dark Horse were doing a lot more comics than this. They were doing a lot more comics than this, but I'm just kind of showing you, and here's good old Boba back, you know, and there's more of him in a minute, but this is, you know, the follow-up to Dark Empire. In the meantime, you know, there was loads of comics from Dark Horse in those years, and here he is, and he's done well, as in the art style. These do make 2 nice books actually, with the same writing and art team in them. Bit of 3PO. Like I say, it's all you want. It's all you want out of your Star Wars comics. You want something new and fresh. You know, I hadn't seen these before, but you want something new and fresh, but kind of not. It's a weird one. It's a weird one. The Star Wars. To be fair, the Star Wars fandom. And this one, now Cam Kennedy, I don't know why it was British artists, why I've got their books, to be fair, but I'm not all about the Brits, but Ian Gibson's artwork. Now he's another one. I don't think his highly stylised art style that he did Robo Hunter for 2000 AD, back in the, would have been early 80s, and Halo, the Ballad of Halo Jones with Alan Moore, which you may have heard of those 2, but gets all the alien stuff correct. Or not that he's wrong, but you know, gets the ships correct. I mean, you can't. I don't know about Vader. I just don't know whether his heavily stylised artwork really. So I don't know if I'm enjoying the Stormtroopers. But nevertheless, again, this was Boba Fett. You know, this is the kind of quirky sci-fi stuff that he could do in Robo Hunter and the other bits he done. And don't get me wrong, I think the man is a gorgeous artist, and the Ballad of Halo Jones is spot on. But just like I'm saying, Howard Chaykin, one of my favourites, Ian Gibson, but you know, not so sure. But stories were great. The stories were great. Not the best ever. Not the best ever, but you know, Fett, you know, Vader wants you kind of thing. And another peculiar thing, and I have done a video on this artist, there is a little backup strip, which would have been just a little backup in one of the issues by Carlos Esquerra and John Wagner. And I mean, Esquerra can do anything, but again, his style, they're really weird pics. And now you can get Esquerra can get the aliens, and probably can get Boba Fett, but I don't know whether it's me, maybe it's just a quirk of me, whether I'm used to him drawing Strontium Dog and Judge Dredd up to this point, and now I'm seeing him do Boba Fett. I don't know, but it's more to do with the aliens than it is to do anything else. And he drew a good Boba Fett, didn't he? So stop moaning, Hog. But from that, not at the same time, but a little bit before it, or interwoven in all of that, was the newspaper, the daily strips. Now, what I liked, and this is the collected edition of the Al Williamson, Archie Goodwin, Al Williamson. Now, Archie Goodwin was the writer on those original 107 issues. He started the writing on them from, I think, about issue 13, 14, somewhere around there. Anyway, he was a writer, editor, creator at Marvel, one of the big boys from the early 70s onwards at Marvel. And Al Williamson, back in the day, drew. So these are all the what I want to draw everyone's attention to is some beautiful artwork, black and white illustrations from a man that worked for EC Comics back in the 50s and 60s, and drew. This is the bit I love. That drew Flash Gordon comics in the mid 60s. And if you're much of a Star Wars fan like I am, you know that one of George Lucas's inspirations for the story is very much, I know not that he doesn't say the comics specifically, I think he means more like the black and white serials, you know, Buster Crab and all that, and how they were constructed. But nevertheless, I find it awesome that Archie Goodwin kind of searches out Al Williamson, and these are only, but this is the dedication that these people had at the time, because he's searching him. He wants Al Williamson, one of the eminent sci-fi comic illustrators, to do a little daily strip in the newspapers for Star Wars. He wants to get it right, and there's 3 wonderful volumes here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but just look at the cover illustrations for these volumes. They're just gorgeous. They're just gorgeous. But I want to show you. I'm going to have a random flick through these just to show you what I'm trying to get on about with a lot of this original stuff that is being recreated now with the modern iteration of creators, is that they are focusing on the original, for the main part. The ones I'm enjoying, might be my age, but it's most of the output is on these original characters, and then the stories woven in between. And I've just take a look at some of this stuff that Al Williamson drew. And what an artist he was, Al Williamson. And what a writer Archie Goodwin was, and the attention to detail they wanted to bring just to newspaper dailies. Now, obviously, this is just I'm really lucky to own one of these. I think this is a really rare collection now. Introduction by You Know Who, singing the praises of one Al Williamson. And when you get a look at this artwork, and he talks in here about Archie Goodwin talks about how much George Lucas was invested in great artwork and great storytelling, and you know how George Lucas was involved in all this, and he loved it. That's just the publisher. And just look at this stuff. Just so this would have been each day. Just look at this artwork. And now this is a guy, this Al Williamson, and I know, just indulge me for a moment where I just gush about the guy, because you know he started his craft doing sci-fi back in the 50s for EC Comics. Not just sci-fi, but the line work on this. You know, an illustrator at the top of his game who wanted to do Star Wars. You know, what a... And any... So I'll just take a chunk of pages, and everywhere you land is pure Star Wars. Every day you'd get pure Star Wars. I think some of these big ones may have been the weekend editions, maybe. You know, I'm not the entire expert on the Star Wars, and this isn't the complete collection, by the way. There was another artist on them beforehand, and Al Williamson was the guy that did the Empire Strikes Back film adaptation, and in the regular run of the comics, and his style for me perfectly suits that, because of his character, because he is such a consummate illustrator. He gets it. Yeah, I could just, well, I could really just dwell on these, but like, you know, this video is about the modern stuff. But I just thought, you know, even on this, I mean, it might not look, but it is. It is. And I think that to make sure, look, you know that's, look, you had to make sure there was some Star Wars in it every day. You couldn't have some, you couldn't just have some weird wandering off of something. It couldn't be done. Love it. So that's just the first volume, just one, you know, just what a just look at that for a minute, look. Just great. Just reminds this, all this stuff does remind me of some of the EC comics, the science fiction covers. But that's just me being a geeky old hog. So, well, I'll just give one more example in volume 2 of, you know, look, let's just flick right to the middle, and it's all pure. It is just all pure Star Wars, and I love it. And I particularly love at the back of this, volumes 2 and 3. I don't know the story behind these, but I'll just show you quickly the scrapbooks. Now I don't know where these were published or whether these were just sketches that Al Williamson did. But look how he sums up. Look how he just sums up every character he's given. Not everyone, you know, as a Star Wars fan, we're lucky to have him do the, oh, here he is. It's a twat. Sorry, don't know where that come from. Gamorrean, look at that, that's lovely, that Gamorrean guard. I didn't notice that before actually. Yeah, anyway, we will leave it at that. Anyway, that was then, this is now. Just to give you a little teaser. And tell me if Marvel aren't doing, just to get, you know, because obviously that was, you know, tugging on the old, and all of this is as well. It's tugging on the old nostalgia strings. You know, don't tell me, like, all right, of all that you wouldn't be interested. And but I'm only saying all this because that, you know, over the past few years, because of the films and because of the TV show, I'm just saying, don't, as a Star Wars fan, please don't let it put you off of the comics, because everyone involved is doing a great job. Just take, we're going to be looking and having a look in all these. But just in case you're thinking, oh yeah, that was then. So you know what are you on about? You know, just go and buy these covers. You know, just if you was looking at covers alone, you know, don't tell me that as a Star Wars fan that this isn't going to pique your interest, because it did mine. It did mine. Like I say, as a comic fan and a Star Wars fan, so I mean, you know, it's double jeopardy. You know, covers like this. You know, he's got a new character there that we don't know, but obviously we know this one, don't we? And that was just a fun little mini series on Chewie. That's all. That's while Ham was in Carbonite, but we will be going through it, and you know, right up to date with stuff like this. So it's not just all about the one original film. It's about a lot of stuff threading its way through the films. Not so much the TV shows, but definitely the first 6 films. Let's go. So like I said, I haven't got like a comprehensive collection of these comics, but this is going to give you a flavour. I mean, for a start, tell me if I'm wrong here, but if this stuff don't get your Star Wars juices flowing, just a cover like this, then I don't know what. And just to do this, again, love it. Right, look at the artwork on this, look. Now, it's not the same art team, obviously, on all the titles, and this is just, you know, this is issue 19, but just to illustrate to you how good these are. Look, if you're not getting like little goosebumps when they do little scenes like this, then obviously this video and these comics aren't for you. And I'm not asking everyone to go and get the back issues for all this lot. They will all be done. They are being done as graphic novels. Look at this stuff. But as well as giving us like the nostalgia bait, which I will keep saying, and which is what's drawn me in, all of this nostalgia bait has drawn me right in, right? It's the new. It's what they've woven in to the. It's just what they've woven in to create new stories. There is enough there. There really is, and like I say, this is just to show off, you know. What more kind of like what more can I say in a way? And this is the main Star Wars comic. Great artwork. Great stories by Charles Soule. Great artwork by Marco Castellio, and it just, for me, look, it's just great. It's great stuff. Great stuff. Now this next cover, anyone who's following my channel knows what crucible I've had to put myself through to bring you this. But all joking aside, what Marvel did over a couple of months and across the line of comics is do these, and again, I know it's nostalgia bait, but we know it's a mock-up of the Palitoy or whatever they were. What was it, Kenner? Back in the day, the toys, just to give the fans a little bit. This is a variant edition, but just to give the fans a little, well, just put a smile on your face, really. And this particular storyline is set after Empire Strikes Back, so obviously we've got a bit of Yoda here, still in contact via hologram, giving him this thing here to. And he's with R2-D2, look, and he's having a chat with him. Look, it was that time I dropped you. I don't know. Look, this is what I mean. If you're on any kind of level of a Star Wars fan, I am, then I think you will be loving this. And anyway, this issue is kind of like he's wandering around in Dagobah when he confronts himself, but this is just it's just a variation on that, to be fair. But like I say, this is just really to show you guys, you know, the level of artwork, where the storytelling's going. You know, this is quite, they do a nice, you know, they're just doing a nice job. You know, that is what I want to show you guys, what they're doing with this Star Wars stuff. And then, so that's just a little illustration of the storyline. And then, but that is the what you would say, what the original, you know, the original trilogy, or even the original film, to be fair. Now this issue 25, it was kind of, issue 24 finished off the storyline that I've just showed you, and obviously 26 is gonna, so we've got 4 nice short stories here, which I thought all the same, not all by Charles Soule again, but I just thought were really nicely done. You know, again, if you're a fan of the George Lucas trilogy afterwards, you know, like the prequel trilogy, there's a little short story here for you with these two. Here we go. Here's another little bit of story here. Look at this stuff. Come on guys, if this don't get the Star Wars juices flowing, I don't know what will. Now obviously we've got the whatever trilogy they call this, I don't know what they call it, you know, love it or loathe it, they are doing the films. I mean, they've done a decent, this was only a little short story, to be fair, but so there's not a lot really you can go wrong with, but they've got one from the original, one from the prequel, and then they've got like a kind of one off of, you know, so what a well balanced. Phil Noto doing the artwork, I just like his artwork style. We're going to be having a look at the Poe Damaron series as well that they did, that was really nicely done. Yeah, like I say, this was just like a filler issue with 4 short stories that I just thought, and what a cover. What a cover. for a Star Wars fan, and also, like I said, a comic fan. And all I'll do with these for a little bit is just show you some more covers. As in, I'm a Star Wars fan and I'm a comic fan, and this is going to get me buying the comics. I thought that was this next one. Look at that for a cover. If you're going to continue the stories on one of the most beloved characters, then that's how you do it. Another one here. Not the biggest fan of the guy in his artwork inside, to be fair. This storyline, it isn't crap, because we're getting right up to date now with these stuff. But what a glorious cover! Just to get, you know, why not give the fans a bit of what they want? There's nothing wrong with that. Luckily, Marvel, the comics division, are giving us that. And here we go. Just one more for the, you know, for the main Star Wars comic. But what I will just show you quickly before we move on, is the fact that the Lucasfilm have got staff here involved. So the more you think about it, the more really that these people have got no excuses. They've got no excuses to not make this work, really. And they should be doing everything they can, and they are. But that's what I mean. That they are. Whereas with the TV stuff, which has been putting me off for a while, I've got to say, yeah, forget that. Forget that. So that's a night. These graphic novels, basically, what I'm trying to promote, and not getting paid for it by Marvel or Disney, is that these are well worth it. These are to buy in graphic novel form. You know, I don't expect everyone to chase down these back issues. I mean, I've just got this recently, so I'm going to show off, because I've just got #1 of this recently, found it, because I've been picking it up. I've only been picking these up for like 5 or 6 months now. If you're going to do an issue 1 of a comic called Darth Vader, this is going to be the way you want to do it, isn't it? No. I know it's a waste of a few pages, but I just love the cinema scope of it. I really do. Here we go, and they do all these in most, not all, but most of these Star Wars comic from Marvel, and we already know where we are. Look at the artwork on this. No, this is just, look at this. Look, this is like I said about that Star Wars comic. If this isn't getting your juices flowing as a Star Wars fan, I don't know what will. I honestly don't know what will. And again, this run of Vader comics is set after Star Wars. So Vader is basically going to Jabba the Hutt saying he needs a bit of help. He needs a bit of help because the Emperor ain't happy with Vader. He's not happy with Vader, and he's saying to Jabba the Hutt, like, I'm going to do you a deal, you know, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. We get a bit of action. Vader showing his powers, look, and Jabba going, all right, you know, where is he? Yeah, here we go, look, going, all right, okay, you know, let's not be, look, for Lord Vader, let us not be hasty, because he's got the right hump now. And so he's just like, they're just lining up the deal, and then he's back to see the Emperor. Nice little insert there, you know, as he's talking, just to lace the conversation so it's not too expositional. Just nicely paced, nicely drawn. A great first issue of a story called, of a comic, sorry, called Darth Vader. Look at this. You know, just lifted straight from a still of the original film. I couldn't help but not love all this stuff. And then we've got new... You know, you've just got that new storyline threaded in. So you've got the characters we've come to know and love. The Red Guard. Here we go. Like I say, what more do you want in a comic called Darth Vader? It's like, you know, like the TV stuff where they give you the look who it ain't and look who it ain't. I love that they've done the swirl of the cape, you know, and this wind. Anyway, but you know, old Dismal Minus doing the TV shows you know, they love to give us the title of the show. They love to give us the title of the show and then never have the character turn up. Well, at least in the comics, Darth Vader's in every issue. And so this is a bit more of a fast forward. So that was issue 1, but this is 23. So we're getting a little bit more up to date, you know, a bit more current. Like I say, these are the ones I've just started picking up. And I just wanted to show that, like, how it's threading into not only the original, and obviously these are the graphic novels, thoroughly recommend, but how they're lacing it in to the prequel trilogy. And here we go. This character here is getting a whiff of a whiff of the fact that, you know, I think she says it here. She says it somewhere where Anakin disappeared and you turned up, like she's talking to Vader, and, you know, the machinations of the story. But I just thought I'd show you this, as in it's not just the original film and Empire and Jedi that they're doing. They're lacing it into everything we've come to know and love in Star Wars, which is basically the first 6 films, isn't it? You know, here we go. And they give you a story behind this as well, and why that's there, and his mates. Yeah. So I hope I've titillated you enough there to maybe pick up a bit of Darth Vader, and then just some covers, Look at this. Look in the issues following, because I don't want to reveal too much of the storylines. To be fair, I want you to kind of get hooked in by what I'm showing you, which is how I got hooked in the comic shop to buy this stuff. Just look at the artwork, you know, and this is something. This boils back to George Lucas, and for me anyway, where he used he pulled in inspiration from all corners, from comics, from classic books and literature, to modern day cinema, everywhere. And this is right up to date. This is within the last month or so. And again, look at this. If that doesn't say Star Wars to you, and if you're not happy with this in a comic called Darth Vader, then I don't know what is going to cheer you up. Look at it. Look, love it. Absolutely, just like I say, that's why I'm doing a video about it. So that is my recommendation for the standalone Vader title. And from there, here we go. Again, another cover that you know I have been finding irresistible. Written by Mark Guggenheim, David Messina on the artwork on this series, and again, it's riffing off of everything we love. So I have not seen, and introducing different characters and storylines. Look at, you know, double page splash of the Millennium Falcon. You know, I think by now you should be getting you should be getting the idea of why I'm enjoying these. And I'm purposely trying not to give too much away on the storylines here, because and you can't have Han and Chewie without Jabba. Come on, you can't. But they thread enough of a different of different stories throughout these characters that we all know and love. That every one of them, we know all of these. Yeah, they're doing a good job. They're good. Obviously, it's difficult. I mean, does every frame of Han Solo look like a young Harrison Ford? No, but I think it's enough to carry the story. And this is obviously issue 1 of Han Solo and Chewbacca, and we go back to Corellia, and it's enough. Look, just one little that ties in to, you know, that the film that shall not be mentioned. But again, I'm saying they tie in with the films, but some of them we don't love. But it was just nice that there's only one. There's one frame. There's Kiara there, and there's Corellia, or not here, but there. You know, the rain and Corellia and the grey, murky. You know, of Han Solo's past. This is in the first issue. Yeah, they throw everything at it, and I think they do a nice. I think they do a nice job. And what a cover! I think that's a fantastic cover. I'm going to leave that there, and then just show another couple of covers that I thought were fantastic. For anyone who's only ever seen the first film, you know, issues 1 and 2, issues 1 and 2 of this comic. I mean, come on, we can't get enough of old Greedo. And the storyline does involve, one of the storylines involves Grand Moff Tarkin. You know, come on, guys, love it, and that's ongoing at the moment as well. So watch out for that one. And so from there, look, I segue nicely into Chewbacca's own title, and this is set while poor old Han is encased in carbonite, so he's on his own. And Phil Noto on the art duties. It's a very, very light-hearted story, this one. Very, very light-hearted story. This, yeah, I would say that this is the most light-hearted. It was only a mini-series. And Chewie's having some downtime and gets involved with this character that is in trouble. And then the adventure ensues from there. But it's a solid story, and anything with Chewie in it, I've got to admit, I love. Not as hard-edged as I'd like to see a Chewbacca and a Wookiee story done, but again, I do like it when you have to write a character that's, you know, like all these panels, look, but then you've got a character here that's understanding Wookiee kind of thing. You know, every time old Chewie has a raw, someone, the other characters have got to react to those. You know the shtick. Yeah, and they both get in trouble. You know, seedy bar scene. You know, where Chewie helps the character, this new character out. Like I say, Philip Noto on the artwork. I always love a bit of his artwork. Very stylish, and there's just another nice cover there. These two covers, and again, just to show everyone how nicely these modern Marvel Star Wars comics are put together. So that's Han and Chewie. Now, at the beginning of this video, and I was saying about the original Star Wars comics that Marvel did in 1977 to 1986. This bounty hunter, Valance, now he wasn't in Empire Strikes Back. Obviously Bosk was, Boba Fett was. That's when we was introduced to the bounty hunters. Valance appeared in issue 16 of the original Marvel Star Wars. But that comic predates Empire Strikes Back. So you could argue that Valance, this cyborg, is an ex-Imperial officer. And, you know, I won't reveal too much of the story, but he has to have cyborg parts, you know, Bionic Man kind of shtick. But anyway, so this Bounty Hunter series kind of concentrates a lot, particularly in the first issues of Valance. But nevertheless, again, solid artwork on this stuff. Solid artwork. Action-packed, all the bounty hunters, old Bosk here, you know, it's revealing enough, you know, all right, the hardcore comics fans might know Valance from the original Star Wars comics, but other than that, they get into the storytelling, they get into the bounty hunting, and they get into all the schemes and the machinations that all of these individual bounty hunters will be trying to get one over on each other. Very, very enjoyable. This is a real good romp through the Star Wars franchise on the fringe of it all. They really are enjoying themselves here, these guys on this one. And from there, obviously, Bosk here, look, you know, so they're giving us enough. They're giving us enough of, you know, Dengar as well, one of the originals from, or say originals, one of the Empire Strikes Back originals. But like I say, Valance predates them. So they brought him back, they've thrown him in, and they've given us, but they are giving us enough of our nostalgia bait again to warrant our interest. I mean, I know, I'm not sure if it's the exact, obviously we all know this one, don't we? And you've got to have Jabba in it with the bounty hunters. But we've kind of seen these faces before in and around. I mean, this one, not this particular character, but that species, that alien race, turns up in, I think it's the Bad Batch or something recently, I seem to remember. But anyway, this is Bosk-centric, and look at the... you know, this is one, you know, who doesn't recognise these from the prequel trilogy, the pod racing scene. I think all the people involved in, like I say, all the people involved in the creation of these comics are well versed in Star Wars lore, and for me, I think they're all having. I think everyone involved, from the artists, the writers, the artists, the colorists, you know, this is still great. You know, they're applying themselves and they're enjoying themselves, and that's what. And I'm enjoying myself, you know, this character, like I say, from Bad Batch, or maybe the last series of Clone Wars, I don't know which one, but anyway, they're not that they're tying into the characters or canon or anything like that. It's just nicely done, and let's go through. So that's the bounty hunters, and they are all tying in. Just a great. That's the kind of cover you want from the bounty hunters, and again tying into more of your sequel trilogy, maybe. But not that they're trying to please everyone, but there's nothing wrong with just dropping in. They're not going heavy on the sequel trilogy stuff. They are trying to tie in some of the latest stuff. Just think these are another couple of nice covers, you know, reminiscent of, you know, that takes you straight back to 1980 Empire Strikes Back, and I just thought that was a fantastic cover. And then from those right up to date versus the Knights of Ren, and again, it's a good story they've woven in. As, you know, forget the films, forget all your prejudice against that sequel trilogy, and enjoy some good storytelling with these comics. And I haven't given Ethan Sachs, the writer, Paolo Vanelli, the artist and the colorist, Arif Prianto, as well as, you know, production design, everything, and for Lucasfilm, you know, all the guys, like I say, all the guys. So it should be. And it's interesting that in the Bounty Hunter one, they don't do the normal scroll, the normal Star Wars scroll. They've just done this kind of very, very generic computer generated, you know, which is, it's nice. It's just a refreshing change from the norm. So, and anyway, they're up to, you know, they're into their, you know, this is one of the ongoing series of Star Wars. Rounding out the last of the original trilogy characters is good old Yoda. And again, I couldn't have wished for anything more when picking this comic up, and it's straight on Dagobah. You know, we're back to Empire Strikes Back, and I know I'm harking on, look at the artwork and what they're delivering. Look, Master Yoda, do you hear me? Look, and he's no, but he does. And this story is him getting embroiled in, you know, this is before Luke turns up on Dagobah, and his adventures before that. I just love this tie-in. And he gets involved in these people on this planet. You know, the council are calling him up to do something or another, and you know, here we go. He goes to Coruscant, and you know, it's all the blah blah blah, but he's going, no, I'm a Jedi, you know, my place. And you know, he's got to help these people out. You know, he's got the calling, and that's Yoda. Look, it's pure. This is what I mean. You must be getting the idea by now. And obviously, again, just highlighting the covers, harking back to what Star Wars fan doesn't want a bit of that? And it goes back to the original stuff where the comic covers, it was just like you was buying a piece of memorabilia almost. This is an interesting one. So that's all the original. That's all of the original trilogy stuff that I've been enjoying from the original trilogy characters. Forgive me. Now this was really interesting. This Star Wars Visions, and it is a manga take on Star Wars, and I just love this. It's a one shot. It's a one off. It's in black and white. It's in the manga style. I just love that. It's like if anyone is familiar with Lone Wolf and Cub, where a samurai has to look after a kid in a pushchair, in a pram. That is Lone Wolf and Cub, one of the original manga titles from way back. And this is a Jedi looking after, just having to care for something important, and done in that manga style. But who would have thought? Really good. As I'm just giving you a teaser of this. I just love the way they it's all black and white except for a little bit of red when the lights come on, when the story dictates that it needs to, or blue. So going back to R2-D2 and the red and blue lights, even the lettering, look, what a lovely detail, what a beautiful detail. And look at this artwork, this manga artwork, and the writing style. It's just a pure manga. Look. They done it. It's really look, all again familiar faces enough to keep all the old hardcore, well, for me anyway, kept me happy. It did, kept me happy. This is a really interesting as a one-off. I wouldn't want to see it every month. I think it'd get, maybe it would yeah, less said about them the better. Anyway, that's just a one shot, and this is another one shot. But just basically, but this is what I mean about their attention to detail at the moment, because basically what they're doing here with this Revelations is tying in all of the, so you've got the bounty hunters, the Vader, the Han and Chewie, the main Star Wars, and you've got Dr. Aphra, and a couple of the other titles. But what they've done here is just do a story based on you know who. And look at this artwork. I thought this artwork was gorgeous. This is how you want your Vader stories. Definitely how I want my Vader stories told. And then different artists link in the different elements, and this is one thing I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, the pew pew pew. I don't know if I've mentioned that in one of my weekly comic videos, or whether I've done that in this video yet. I just like that. I like that little nod and wink to the fans. Again, we all know where we are, don't we? Yeah, like I say, different artists. Like this Dr. Aphra, I don't know anything about, so I can't comment on that. Nothing in it tickled my fancy. I think it looked a little bit like very modern Star Wars, a bit too Disney. But I could be wrong. So, like I say, not going to comment. Look, beautiful. That is beautiful. That's what we want. And it's interwoven into this Vader story, and then we've got the bounty hunters now. We've got Valance here, and so all it's trying to do is get everyone involved with all the different titles, the main titles: Star Wars, bounty hunters, you know, Dr. Aphra, Dr. Aphra, and the main Star Wars title. Here he is, good old Luke. It's just going to be a good comic all day long with Vader, Luke, and the bounty hunters in it. This was a nicely dark story for me. The Emperor, you know, to be continued in Hidden Empire. And then just two titles. This is the modern, so right up to date for all the younger people in the audience that are thinking, oh, geekyOlhog, mate. Is there anything modern you can give us? Well, here we go. Poe Damaron from the sequel trilogy. You know, the First Order. Is it the First? Yeah, it is the First Order, isn't it? And again, they're offering up all of the signatures from, if you're loving that sequel trilogy. But I found this, as much as I'm not a lover of the sequel trilogy, let's just put it diplomatically, this was great artwork and a nice story, and they've plucked one character from the films, which I loved. And it's a decent character, you know. It's a bit like the Rogue Squadron, really. You know, Poe Dameron is a pilot, and you can just send him on his adventures. Look at this artwork. Look at this artwork. This you know, if you're not getting the if you're not getting the idea now about how nicely they're putting these books together, then I don't know what else I can say. And as for covers on this book, look at that. Like design wise, a beautiful, just purely for design work on these. And again, another one. Like I say, like if you think of like a Rogue Squadron kind of thing going on, and if you like, you know, if you've grown up with the sequel trilogy and you like it, then fine, pick up this book. This is just a great Star Wars. You know, I've banged on enough about all the original trilogy. Here's the modern stuff, and I know that Solo is a film that we don't like talking about, but the character from that, Kira, and here she is in this Crimson Reign. They've set her character up nicely, and look how they set this up, and they set up the character nicely enough. Oh, look who else turns up! You know, this is what I mean about, you know, they're riffing off of all the stuff we know apart from the prequel and the original trilogy, and they're setting her character up to be quite pivotal within this story. You know, this Crimson Reign went through quite a few of the titles, and it was decent. It was a decent storyline, and her part as the you know from the, if you can remember, because I don't think anyone watched the Solo film more than once. If you can remember her part in the film as a broker between, you know, in that shady, murky world between the Empire and the Rebellion and the blah blah, and this goes on from that. But just one for the non-old hogs, the young hogs amongst us. If you think I've been banging on too much about the, you know, the original stuff, this is her book, but they still do it. Which is great. Look, again, just the covers, just going through the covers. Glorious artwork, lovely design, the stories. It's, you know, it's old Charles Soule again, doing the writing. And if these don't get you involved, then I don't know what. And I will leave it there. There are more titles in the stock, but I've just gone through the ones that I can vouch for. if you're like me, you'll seek out all the individual issues and bag and ball them and fritter them away. But anyway, what I'm trying, I hope I've conveyed all the best of the reasons why you should be picking up these books. I think everyone involved is doing a great job, and that it could have been a facsimile of how they're proceeding with things via the TV at the moment. But we won't go there. I'm going to end on a quote from George Lucas, and it's when all the books and the comics, and back in the late 80s maybe, it was all kicking off between like the Return of the Jedi and then the prequel trilogy, in that period where you could only get your Star Wars kicks from books or comics, and a bit of merchandise, but you know what I mean, you know, storytelling wise. And he said the films are gospel and everything else is gossip. Even though, especially at the beginning, like with the Thrawn books and the newspaper strips and the comics that I mentioned right at the beginning, it all had to be part of the canon. It had to be knitted in. That is what he said. The films are gospel and everything else is gossip. And I just wanted to leave everyone with that thought, bearing in mind what they do with the TV stuff. And we've all got our favourite trilogy. I think these are I think these comics, obviously the books are as well, and whatever aspect of Star Wars we love, well, let's carry on loving it. But for me, the original trilogy and these comics sewn into them all is spot on. And on that note, I am going to bid everyone adios.